Okay, this is a video I'm putting together for the sale of ZZR1100 D5 surplus to my requirements. It's a 1995, I think, D5, I can't remember. P-Reg, I don't know what that is, probably 95. ZZR1100 D version. There was a C and a D model. This is the later D model. I think halfway through the D3, after the D5, they made a couple of changes, like gave it a really nice handy clock, and so on and so forth. Changed the carburetor slightly. It is what it is. It's relatively high mileage for a. I say it's relatively high mileage. It's 55,000 miles. 55,000 miles. I presume this is a relatively good respray that's gone on it. It's clean enough, but it doesn't look to perfectly match it. We're in a garage, so I'm not getting perfect sunlight. If I just switch it on, wheel it out into the light a bit. There you go. Can you see it? Looks lovely, and it's in the sort of gunmetal grey that's been done in. Remus exhaust can. I don't know what to tell you about it really. It's not immaculate. Probably the highlight points are that it's had upgraded brakes. I think the original brakes were shocking, upgraded discs as well. I've had it now, I think I've got it at 52, so I've put 3,000 miles on it. Brakes have been fantastic, they're really good. Obviously not up to sort of modern radial brake standards, but for such a big bike it stops reasonably well. Front mudguard's black, the rest of the bike's grey. I've never really noticed. It's actually relatively tidy, I think. Apart from, I took it on holiday, did a tour of the Highlands of Scotland, 1,500 miles, didn't miss a beat, but I did catch the luggage on something and get some nicks out of the side here. There you go, it's all, I'll give you a run over. The tyres went on just before I did my tour. They started to square off now. That's probably 2,000 miles ago. So it started to square off because it was M6 all the way up there, M6 all the way back, and then riding around the Highlands. It was stunning. It was an extraordinarily good touring bike, by the way. Effortless, pussycat under 4, good mid-range grunt between 4 and 8, and after 8. This used to be the world's fastest production bike, and you'd believe it. You genuinely would believe it. Obviously, your modern, the ZX10R over there, that leave it for dead. But yeah, it's got that little trick up its sleeve that once you get it past 8, it really has a sting in the tail. It's a fantastic machine to ride around on. So some crash bongs on it. Okay, it's stone cold. Let's touch the exhaust, like, you know, it's stone cold. This is just how it works. Just make sure that everything's running. It runs okay. It's not perfect. I mean, the idle will be. You've got to start a typical Kawasaki. Right, when I start this, the revs are going to go through the roof. This is what they do. Revs will go through the roof. I'm going to back it off. It's then going to decide whether it's going to run or not. And yeah, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. It's a Kawasaki. They genuinely all do that. There you go. So I've caught the revs. It either revs its nuts off, or when you back the choke off, it could potentially die, but that's just Kawasaki for you through and through. We can hear revs fine, so until it warms up it'll be a bit fluffy, but once it's warmed up it rides really well. Like I say, the general condition I would say is used but good. 55,000 miles. I think the previous there is a bit of damage there. Look. There's a bit of damage on the fairing. Everything else nothing really to write home about. Front tyre's good. That went on at the same time as the rear. I've just done the fork seals. They weren't leaking, but there was starting to be a bit of residue on the stanchion, so I thought prevention was better than cure, so I swapped them over. everything went fine. So it's had some new fork oil in it as well. There we go, I'm going to back this off. So as you can see, sits, idles quite nicely. It will be a little bit it's relatively responsive. It runs really well. Everything works on it. All the lights work, the fuel gauge works after a fashion, the temperature gauge works, the fan works. Suspension's quite good actually for an old bike. What else to tell you? It's touring screen on it. Like I say, I took it around the Highlands of Scotland and it did not miss a beat. We were 2 up. We had the luggage on at the time. Oh, by the way, the luggage doesn't come with it. That's there's a givey rack there, and the givey boxes up there. They're probably worth 250 quid on their own, so I'm selling them separately, and I'll probably take the rack off as well if that's okay, because I'm probably going to end up with another one of these. They're just, thing is, they're so dirt cheap. Yeah, you'd be a fool not to pick one of these up for a grand and a bit, and it's utterly bulletproof. It's such a surprisingly good bike. I can't think of another bike that you can get for less money that does as much as this. That's an old ratted VFR 750. I swear by the V4 750s. Thing is, this is just a better place to be. It's a better motorcycle in nearly every way. I like the V4, but the inline 4, you know, the VFR can't touch it. It's in a completely different league. It's playing a different game, and it'll waft you around like nobody's business. And arguably handles better, a bit heavier, but if you know what you're doing, you sort of pick your line properly, this thing will carve it up like the best of them. I do jokingly say that I'm not entirely sure which one's faster, whether that is or that is, but and not that the ZX10R is not capable of outstripping this thing. It's just that it's easier to go fast on this than it is to go fast on the ZX10R. It's flightier. This just gets on. It's a longer wheelbase, keeps the front wheel on the ground quite well, and accelerates like an absolute nutter. Like I say, no faults that I'm aware of. Trying to think. All bikes have got a fault. Let's find something. What shall we find? Yeah, scratch on the fairing. It's got to have a fault. Surely something's got to not work. What doesn't work? Come on. What doesn't work? You need more than one key for it. The key for the ignition is different to the key for the fuel. Is that it? Yeah, that's about it. Okay. In terms of consumables, brake pads were changed not long ago. Rear brake pads I haven't had a look at, but they're probably okay. Oil was changed literally 100 miles ago. No problem with that. Balance the carbs. When did I balance the carbs? Same time I did the oil. So that's about 100 miles ago. Brake fluid and clutch fluid both were changed in my ownership, so in the last 3,000 miles. Chain and sprockets were okay when I got them, still feel okay, so they are what they are. Oh, if you're shorter, I've turned there's a trick you can do with these with the rear concentric adjuster. If you put that to the bottom, it raises the rear ride height, it makes it a little bit more sporty handling. So obviously my other bike's a ZX10R, so yeah, it makes it feel a little bit less cumbersome when I jump off the ZX10R onto this. If you're shorter of stature, this raises the ride by the distance between there and there. What's that, about an inch? So if you want to lower it an inch, you may do so by turning that round. Not an immaculate machine by any stretch of the imagination, but fairly tidily presented, and has been utterly and perfectly reliable during my ownership. Like I say, 1,500 miles around the Highlands of Scotland, 2 up with luggage, pulled like an absolute train. Returns, there's a secret weapon for you, returns about 50 miles to the gallon. You know, for a machine that's capable of getting on for 180 miles an hour, that is, it doesn't return 50 miles an hour, 50 miles per gallon when you're doing 100 and stupid miles an hour, but it does when you're commuting to work and back. It's a considering I bought it as a cheap hack just to get me around, I've been utterly impressed with it and would absolutely have another one in an instant. But in the summer, I'm always going to ride that. I'm not going to ride this, so I'm passing it on while the sun's still out, so I'm going to get used to it, and I'll maybe buy another one come winter. Any questions? Let me know. But that's the state of the instruments. Tank's in pretty good condition. bodywork's good, as you can see. There's no rust, rot, nothing's fallen off it. It's a couple of scuffs, and that's at the edge of the mirror, and like I say, the scuffs on the other side. All in all, pretty honest machine. So I was going to say before, the previous owner said he replaced the engine. Had a number 3 bearing failure, which I think is relatively common on these. If you don't, right, you can do your own research on the forums, but basically the oil level gets a bit low, so you always want to fill this just above the sight glass, which I've done. So I don't know where the sight glass is down there somewhere, but basically, yeah, when you see that on its main stand, just make sure, don't fill it conventionally, overfill it, because if it runs I think it'll store a lot of oil in the head when it's running, and it means that the oil pickup can sometimes not work properly and starve the big end bearing number 3 of oil, which happened on the previous engine. So although the bike's done 50,000 miles, God knows what the engine's done. You ride it, you'll be able to tell it's not an old tired engine. It's blatantly younger than its 55,000 miles on the clock would have you believe. So yeah, so you've potentially got I don't know, my guess would be a 30,000, 35, 40,000 mile engine in a 55,000 mile bike. You're probably going to get this for $1,000 or thereabouts, and you'll be laughing all the way to the bank. This is it's going to be one of the biggest bargains in motorcycling today. Anyway, happy bidding. Any questions, give us a shout. Yeah, kind of almost sorry to see it go. It's served its function really well, and and I've enjoyed every minute of ownership. So yeah, for Hobson's choice, it's done a hell of a job. Okay, any questions, let me know. Cheers.